Discover the power of Google's NotebookLM in this hands-on tutorial, where we dive into its intuitive structure, seamless functionality, and versatile data visualization options to analyze real-world crises like the massive AWS outage on October 20th, 2025, in the U.S. East 1 region, concluding with critical insights on the digital economy's vulnerability to electricity disruptions and platform reliability, plus the escalating geopolitical tensions shaping AI systems. Let's dive in.
Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast. Today, we'll analyze the Amazon Web Service failure using a great tool, NotebookLM. Okay, let's begin. Now let's walk through NotebookLM because it's a very friendly. We see three different areas. One is the area where we can upload the sources that we can analyze. And the versatility of this platform is because we can upload PDF, Excel sheet, copy and paste, and also add the URL information from videos or anything that you're interested. Which is the versatility of this platform, or the key value of this platform, is because we can integrate different sources and we analyze immediately. This platform analyzes the information and give us a summary of the information, and that's amazing. And today, for the example that I want to use it's the information related to Amazon Web Service failure. Okay, I will work with URL information. Okay. It's very interesting. Okay, click here. We select the option that we can to that we want to add the sources. Here I have. Okay, and immediately NotebookLM show us a global summary. It's a very interesting options. And here we have the second area that we can ask for information, ask for summary, add our prompt, and even here we have different options that the platform show us that we can use it. Okay, and here I choose one. Let me see. Okay, here one. Okay, and we can start chatting with NotebookLM. And here we have the information that I select, and immediately we can read the summary, the information focused on the topic that we want. Okay, here we have extra information. That's very professional tool to analyze the information, and also the top results are the audio summary, the video summary, or any other options of the information that we want to select. And we'll see how it works. It's fascinating because each of us we identify to work with what kind of information, especially somebody want to listen when they are walking to their work or doing something. Somebody else want to see a summary of my video in a few minutes, see the general idea, the summary of the information. Another ones want a resume to analyze the information, and we'll see the examples. It's really interesting. Okay, and we'll see the different options. Okay, I click here in the pen to see the different options about the audio summary, and also select the language that we want. Okay, Spanish, English, Deutsch, French. Okay, here we have the period that we want, a short or a long. Okay, that's very cool. Here we have also the summary related to the video. So we can select the language. We see the options, and different options of the presentation. Okay, that's very, very, very cool. Okay, here we have another kind of a presentation of the information, and we'll see the magic. Here we have three options of the information. Okay, let's begin with this one. It's very, very, very interesting because we can identify immediately some informations. Okay, because it aggregate the information by topic. Okay, and as we can select the topic, we can deploy the information, and we see a general summary, especially when the people want to read and just to identify the milestones. That's the best option for you. Okay, here we have some information, and we can identify completely the tree of the information. Yeah, it's very, very cool. Here we have it, and we can see the topic and analyze the general information. I mean, we see the core of the topic. Okay, here we have a general information in a few minutes. That's cool. Okay, and okay, here we have this is this option. Here we have another one. Okay, here we have the option for listening. We'll listen the general information.
This is the brief on the massive AWS outage and what it reveals about global digital dependency. So, you know when Amazon Web Services, AWS, basically the backbone for a ton of the internet went down recently? Yeah, it was a huge mess. Popular apps like Snapchat and Venmo just stopped working, hitting over 2,500 companies worldwide. Even Amazon's own shopping site got knocked offline. So what went wrong, and why is it a big deal? Okay, first up, the failure kicked off in this really key data center region, US East 1. The root cause? A problem with DNS resolution. DNS is kind of like the internet's address book, right? Essential stuff. Now, AWS fixed that initial error pretty quickly, but because everything's so complex, they still had to throttle things like launching new computer resources until it all fully stabilized the next day. Second, why did one regional issue cause a global crisis? Well, experts talk about this complex infrastructure dependency. See, AWS is built sort of block upon block. So when a foundational piece fails, especially in a critical default hub like US East 1, you get this massive knock-on effect. It just cascades globally, taking down banks, telecoms, even small businesses that depend on those services. It's wild. And finally, experts are really stressing that this fragility means we need change, like now. Cloud providers like AWS, they argue these must be treated as critical infrastructure, just like electricity or water. That likely means more serious audits to map out these deep digital links and making sure mandatory backup and resilience are actually built in everywhere. No excuses. This whole incident really just confirms how incredibly complex and kind of fragile our global IT systems are, demanding some serious regulatory attention.
Okay, and also here we have the video.
Welcome to The Explainer. Not too long ago, a huge chunk of the internet just went dark. Today, we're going to dig into the massive outage that basically brought the digital world to a standstill. We'll look at what went wrong, and maybe more importantly, ask if something like this could happen all over again.
You know that feeling, right? One minute you're sending a message, the next you're trying to buy something, and then nothing. It wasn't just your connection. For millions of people, a totally normal day turned into this digital nightmare where essential services, everything from work tools to payment apps, just poof, gone.
All right, let's get into it. And to really understand what happened, we have to start with the sheer scale of the chaos. This was not just a few websites being slow. This was like a fundamental piece of the internet's engine just seizing up completely.
And the list of companies that went down is just wow. We're talking huge social media sites like Snapchat and Reddit, payment apps like Venmo, even major airlines like United, Apple was hit, Slack, the tools so many of us use for work, went dark, and in a pretty wild twist, even Amazon's own giant retail site was one of the victims. The numbers from that day are just staggering. Down Detector, which is a site that basically tracks outages, was just swamped with over 11 million reports from users like you and me. And get this, more than 2,500 different companies felt the heat. It was a crazy reminder of just how interconnected and maybe how fragile this whole system really is. Yeah, and this went way beyond just being an inconvenience. This had real-world consequences. We heard about students who were literally locked out of their online classrooms. There were small businesses, like this one cafe in Colorado, that had to go back to using pen and paper to write down credit card numbers, just hoping they got it right.
So that's the big question, right? What in the world could cause such a massive global mess? How can so many completely different and unrelated services all just fail at the exact same moment? Well, it didn't take long for investigators to trace it all back to a single, very powerful source.
And the culprit was Amazon Web Services, or AWS. Now, for a lot of people, AWS is kind of invisible, right? But it's this massive cloud computing platform that acts as the digital backbone for a huge portion of the modern internet, from tiny little startups all the way up to government agencies.
And that quote really nails the problem. This whole event was a huge, blinking red light, a reminder of a serious vulnerability in our digital world. We've become so reliant on just a handful of these giant cloud providers that when one of them even stumbles, a massive part of the internet can come crashing down with it.
Okay, so let's zoom in and pinpoint the exact technical failure. This wasn't some vague, system-wide problem. Nope. It all started with a single issue in one very specific, and as it turns out, very important location.
If you look at Amazon's own official timeline, you can see exactly how this whole crisis played out. It started just before midnight with what they called increased error rates. But the really key thing here is how long the recovery actually took. Even though they figured out the cause in about an hour, it was a full 12 hours later before everything was truly back to normal.
So what was the cause? They called it a DNS resolution issue. The easiest way to think about DNS is like the internet's address book. It's the thing that translates a website name that we understand, like Amazon.com, into an IP address that computers understand. And during this outage, that address book basically broke for a super important database, and all the services that needed to find it suddenly got lost.
And here's the kicker, the location. This all happened in AWS's US East 1 region. Now, because that's one of their oldest and biggest data centers, it's become the default choice for a ton of developers when they build their apps. And what that means is that a huge, disproportionate chunk of the internet is counting on that one specific region to be running perfectly.
But that still leaves a pretty big question hanging out, doesn't it? How does one little technical problem in one specific region in the US cause a worldwide outage? Well, the answer is kind of buried in the complicated, hidden architecture of our digital lives.
Professor Nish Thrastri from the University of Surrey gave this perfect analogy. He described our digital world as a tower of Jenga blocks. And this outage, he said, wasn't like knocking the top block off the tower. No, this was like pulling a critical block out from way down at the bottom, causing everything built on top of it to start wobbling.
This is what the experts call the knock-on effect. The app you're using on your phone might seem totally independent, but it probably relies on some other service for, say, processing payments. And that payment service might rely on yet another service for data analytics, which ultimately relies on that one single failing AWS region. It's this fragile chain of hidden connections that can just shatter when you least expect it.
You know, when something this big happens, it naturally forces us to step back and ask some bigger, more fundamental questions. This isn't just about the tech anymore. It's about how our digital world is built and who's ultimately responsible for keeping the lights on. And that brings us to the central debate here. When a single company's failure can stop people from making transactions, from going to class, or from running their business, do we need to start thinking about these cloud services in a totally new way? I mean, are they basically as essential now as our power grid or the water coming out of our taps?
It really sparks a tough conversation. On one side, you have people arguing that these services are just too important to fail, and that maybe their stability should be required by law. But then, on the other side, is the reality that these systems are unbelievably complex, and the very innovation we all love was born in an environment with less regulation. It's that classic trade-off between stability and speed.
At the end of the day, this whole outage was a massive global wake-up call. It forces all of us to look at how much we rely on just a small handful of these giant tech platforms. And it leaves us with this one critical unanswered question for the future.
We built our entire digital civilization on just a few clouds. What's our plan for when it starts to rain?
Okay. And for me, what's the most important thing related to the NotebookLM? Because in just few minutes, we can select the information that we want to analyze, add directly the sources, select the prompt, the information, and get a summary with just the information that we want to stay focused. That's the most important thing here we have, because in a few minutes we get the core of the information that we want to analyze. And later on we can download the information, the format, the audio summary, the video summary of the information that we see, and we can study just to understand the topic that we are analyzing. Okay, that's very, very interesting. Let's talk about some insights that we have to consider, because they are important. I think that we have to consider. Let me talk about some digital economy, geopolitics, international trade, because these elements or these aspects are very, very related. Okay, for example, in a easy way. Okay, the digital economy has a multiple variables, a lot of variables. Also the geopolitical and also the international trade have a lot of variables for each of them. Okay, let me focus just in a few of them for each topic. Okay, about the digital economy, let's talk about the Bitcoin. That today it has a big, it's a very, very important to access or to buy some Bitcoins, or the trading of Bitcoins, or using in normal activities the Bitcoin. But the Bitcoin exists, especially for many, many variables, but especially I want to talk about two. The first one is the electricity and the platforms. Imagine that the platforms, somebody turn off the electricity that lets the platforms work. What should happen? Imagine that. If you have thousands of Bitcoins, what should happen? What you can do without electricity, or without the platform that work and can demonstrate that you have or trading the Bitcoin, what should happen? Okay, that's the important thing that we have to consider. Why is this so important in my opinion? Because, for example, that's why I use the Amazon Web Service failure. Just a few hours of the failure, and we see the damage that happened with many companies. Okay, what should happen in an interruption for days or weeks? What should happen? AI systems exist because there is many components that can integrate the parts, and also the energy. Today we are using three kind of energy in general aspect, three sources, especially for generate the electricity required around the world. Especially now the new player in this demand is the data centers. Okay, but today we have to consider that the three sources to generate electricity. The first one is the fossil fuel. Okay, the second one, well, the fossil fuel is related about the 50% of the electricity generated in the world. Okay, 50%. Approximately 35% related to renewables sources. Okay, in general, and 15% related to nuclear energy. That's why the powerful countries want to control the raw materials or the energy. Okay, and also the situation related on this. I mean, the extraction, the production, the distribution, and the and everything related on this. And for example, we have been listening the information that, for example, the U.S. president want to apply import duties for the import for different products imported from China. Yeah, but when we analyze in a deepest situation, we see the dependence of the United States, the electrical vehicle industry, the military industry, the aerospatial industry that depend from the import the raw materials from China, especially about the rare earths or another elements related to on this. Yeah, because today China is the only country around the world who can extract and transform those raw materials in a components in a part that the different industries can integrate with in their products. That's the important thing. And even the U.S. government has invested a lot of money in different countries like Argentina, like Australia, and Europe want to develop the industry, especially related to extract rare elements or different materials related to AI systems. Yeah, that's why I consider that AI systems is the core of geopolitical, of international trade, of political situations around the world. Okay, and consider an information to produce a laptop around the 2 kilograms of the weight, the companies need to extract 800 kilograms of different different materials. Just I am talking just about the extract, the mining process. Okay, later you have to transform, or the company need to transform the raw material to components. Later the company have to export to different countries, to different companies. Okay, that's so important, and that's the relation between the AI systems with the geopolitical situation. And another example of geopolitical situation. Today we have listened that for a long time that China want to invade Taiwan. But there is the important thing is that we have to understand that there is no the cause that why China want to invade Taiwan is not for the a land. It's because TSMC, the company that is the supplier to NVIDIA that supply the chips, is there. It's in Taiwan. That's why China want to get the complete island. Okay, that's the thing that we have to consider, that we have to analyze and consider in our finance investment, in our activities, in our portfolio of clients or suppliers, that what happen if suddenly start this conflict. Because USA has said that if China invade Taiwan, they support or help Taiwan. Imagine this situation in the military aspect, but also in the international trade or the supply chain. That's why, especially for small and medium companies, we have to pay a lot of attention on this to analyze this information. That's the most important thing that we have to pay attention related to business intelligence. Also, inside of the company, we have to prepare our the people who's working inside of the company, and also to develop the efficiency culture, because we have to develop especially the processes that we are using to develop our activities, our products, our services, that they add value. That's the important thing that we have to consider, to pay attention, and to analyze. Yeah, that's the important thing related to networking, because if you're a small or medium company that you are producing a great product, well, the food or textile or anything, huh? you don't have enough time to start researching the information, to start develop business intelligence activities or something like that. Or you have to continue producing your products. That's why, for example, in my case, that I am a business coach, I have 3 different services. We can work together and add value and stay focused on your goals. That's the important thing that I invite you to consider. Okay, that's the important thing. Well, now I just want to say thank you for your time, and I hope that we can develop a business networking. Thank you.